This is terrifying and sad, and I can't stop thinking about it. I need to get it off my chest. It started normal. I was Snapchatting with my friend Sarah since we were both bored one Saturday night. She asked if I wanted to stream a movie together over Netflix Party. I'm like, sure. So I join her Netflix party and we start watching some comedy. We're just casually video chatting through Snap while the movie plays. Then Sarah says, "Hold on, my Snap is freezing up." Her video gets glitchy for a bit. When it comes back, something seems off. The lighting look weird. I ask, "Did you change rooms? The background looks different." She says, "No, I'm still in my bedroom." But I notice little things that aren't quite right. The way she's holding her phone, her mannerisms. It's like a different person trying to act like her. I'm like, "Are you okay? You seem kind of off." She gives me this fake laugh and insists she's fine. That's when I notice these huge, deep scratches all over her bedroom wall, like massive gouges that definitely weren't there before. I say, "Holy crap, what happened to your wall?" She hesitates, then claims her cat got rambunctious earlier. But I know that's BS. Those scratches were way too big to be from a cat, plus Sarah has a dog, not a cat. At this point, I'm low-key freaking out, but I don't want to show it in case it really is her and not some impersonator. So I just awkwardly laugh it off. The rest of the movie is just really tense and weird. Every time I glance at those scratches, my mind races about what could have made them. An animal? A person? It puts me on edge. Halfway through, Sarah gets up to get water and her video goes dark. That's when I hear a loud metallic crash through her mic that makes me jump. She claims she knocked over a lamp, but it doesn't feel right. By the end, I'm convinced it's not actually Sarah I'm talking to. Someone or something has done something to her. I'm panicking, but I don't know what to do. If I tick them off, will they come after me next? When the movie ends, the person stares directly into the camera with this chilling look before whispering, "I had fun, we should do this again soon," and winking. Then they hang up. I was up all night, terrified, with a knife next to my bed just in case. I tried calling and texting the real Sarah with no response. The next day, her mom posted online that they couldn't get a hold of her. My heart sank. I knew that disturbing call was the reason. Sure enough, a week later, they found Sarah's body. I don't want to go into the details, but it's clear she suffered a horrible demise. I think back to those scratches, that metallic crash, that haunting stare and wink at the end. It all felt way too viscerally terrifying to be a prank. Like I somehow bore witness to someone tormenting her through her own Snapchat before killing her. I haven't been able to use Snapchat since, without getting massively triggered and paranoid that I'll see something else I can't unsee. Constant nightmares, panic attacks, PTSD, all from one messed up Snapchat call. I'll never be able to shake the feeling that a dangerous psycho was watching me through her phone that night as they did unspeakable things to her. I was using Snapchat one night before bed like I always do, just mindlessly going through stories from my friends. Everything seemed normal at first. But then I noticed something weird. There was a new story from someone I didn't recognize or have added on Snapchat. Just a generic smiley face as the name. I watched the first few snaps and it was just a black screen. Odd, but I figured it was a glitch and tried to ignore it. The next day, the same random story was back with new black screen snaps added to it. At this point, I was getting creeped out, but still brushed it off. Until a few days later when I realized this mystery story was being constantly updated, every single day, with more blank snaps. I finally clicked on the anonymous smiley face name to try and figure out who was behind this weird story. But there was no way to message them or anything. It just pulled up a faceless blank profile. So freaking creepy. That's when some of the black screen snaps started changing. There were these weird, fleeting images that felt almost subliminal, like shapes shifting in the darkness or quick light flashes. They were easy to miss if you blinked. By this point, I was pretty unsettled, but also morbidly curious to see what happened next on this disturbing story. I checked it constantly, probably against my better judgment. A few days later, I got an actual scare. One of the snaps on the story wasn't just a black screen anymore. It was someone's living room, disheveled and dimly lit. The camera was perfectly still, just sitting there pointed at the couch and TV. At first, I thought maybe it was just a weird prank by one of my friends. But then after about 30 seconds, something happens that made my blood run cold. A shadowy figure casually walks through the frame and exits out of view. I must have watched that 10-second snap 50 times, analyzing every pixel, trying to rationalize what I just saw. Maybe it was someone's house and they didn't realize Snapchat was still recording. But the more I thought about it, the more unsettling it became. The next day, there was another residential interior snap on the story. This time it was an empty kitchen. But the sounds were what really startled me. You could clearly hear the muffled voices of a TV or radio playing from another room, like the subtle ambient noises you'd hear in an actual home. Over the next week, more snaps appeared. Bedrooms, basements, backyards, always dead empty and slightly off, but with those chilling environmental details that make it seem so real. At this point, I was utterly creeped out and obsessively watched each new snap, trying to figure out whose houses these even were. I was desperately hoping for any clue or explanation. Maybe it was an art project or something. I tried to rationalize it in my mind while also being disturbed to my core. Then one day, seemingly out of nowhere, the story finally had a caption along with the usual unsettling snap. Just 2 words. "You're next." I immediately blocked and reported the account, obviously, and deleted Snapchat from my phone for a while after that. But those few weeks of being utterly creeped out and feeling like I was watching someone's twisted Snapchat story unfold without knowing why or what was really going on seriously messed with my head. I have no idea if it was some bizarre prank or something even more nefarious. But it was one of the most unnerving experiences I've had with social media. Definitely put me off using Snapchat for a while, that's for sure. This started when I noticed this one particular user that had started viewing all my Snapchat stories repeatedly. Like, every single one, they'd watch through the loop over and over again. At first, I didn't think much of it. Snapchat shows you view counts, but not the specific usernames of who's watching. After a while, though, I got curious about this repeat viewer and looked into finding out their username. Through some digging, I was able to trace it back to an account I didn't actually follow or know the person behind. Just a random guy from another town I have 0 connections to. That's when things took an unsettling turn. I checked out his public story, and there were all these weird coded snaps. Just him recording spaces like parking lots, stores, parks, etc. with no context. Almost like he was documenting places or something. It immediately set off alarm bells in my head. From there, I started to pay closer attention to this dude's behavior patterns across social media. Sure enough, I noticed him going through the same repeated viewing of stories and snaps belonging to a bunch of other random people. Not just me. Definitely started to feel like I was being tracked in some way. I tried to brush it off, but the paranoia ramped up quickly. This guy seemed to have an unhealthy obsession or fixation, constantly watching, then dropping pins on maps or geotags of people, places he didn't actually know or follow. It was clear he was up to something malicious. I just couldn't quite prove it yet. Things only got worse from there. More cryptic snaps on his story, some that seemed to be veiled threats or taunts. Captions making vague insinuations about never being alone or not feeling safe. I felt like I was caught in the web of some twisted little game with this sicko. The breaking point was when my own story started getting bizarre anonymous replies from another burner account, little distorted video edits where it looked like my own face was swapped or dubbed on top of other people's bodies, clearly manipulated and meant to disturb me. At this point, I was utterly freaked and felt like I was legitimately being somehow tracked, stalked, or studied through social media in a way that felt threatening and predatory. I documented as much evidence as I could, but of course it's impossible to really prove any of it. I ended up having to nuke most of my social channels, Snapchat included, and essentially go into full privacy lockdown mode for my own peace of mind and safety. I still feel constantly unsettled. Like somewhere out there, some disturbed individual made me their online obsession target for reasons I'll never understand. I don't know if I was finally getting closed in on by some creepy doxer hacker or just the subject of an extremely sick individual's fixation. But it's forever made me rethink how much of myself and my personal details I put out on the internet and social media. It only takes one malicious person to completely violate your sense of privacy and security. I wish I could go back and forget this whole nightmare, but it's seared into my brain. It started out innocently enough. I had joined this private Snapchat group for locals in my area to make friends and get insider tips on events happening around town. Seemed harmless at first. After being added, I started occasionally getting these bizarre snaps from unknown accounts I didn't follow. Just weird selfies with distorted faces or glitchy visuals. I figured it was friends playing stupid pranks and ignored them. But the strange snaps kept coming more frequently over the next few weeks. And they were getting increasingly off. Unsettling shots of empty rooms, parks at night, somewhere you'd never want to find yourself alone. Always with that same underlying glitchy effect. I finally decided to ask around in the group about who was behind these bizarre snaps. To my horror, it turned out no one actually knew what I was talking about. Multiple people claimed they hadn't received any weird snaps at all. But I knew what I saw. From there, things only got darker and more disturbing. The snap shifted to what looked like behind-the-scenes footage straight out of a slasher movie. Ominous shadows, POV shots stalking people without their knowledge, all bathed in that eerie digital distortion. One particularly bone-chilling snap showed a handheld view circling a person slumped over, unmoving. I watched in growing panic and revulsion as the camera drew closer, until a glitch-warped scream suddenly blasted through my headphones, making me throw my phone across the room. I desperately tried to find any shred of hope that these were just expertly edited fakes or trippy ARG promos. But my gut told me something far more sinister was happening. Paranoia took over with the horrifying possibility that I was being force-fed found footage from something I didn't want to imagine. The final nail in the coffin was when I received an edited snap that was personally targeted at me. It showed a severely distorted and warped image that was supposed to be my own face, but it looked grotesquely disfigured beyond recognition. Accompanying this disturbing visual was an ominous, pitch-shifted voice repeating, "Join us before it's too late." With shaking hands, I managed to delete my account and furiously scrub any connection to that group. But I'll never forget those harrowing weeks of plunging deeper into what felt like a legitimate snuff film community, being helplessly bombarded with terrifying content that blurred all lines between reality and nightmare. I've sworn off public social media sharing for good. If having a relatively open profile online means leaving any door unlocked for the sickest corners of the internet to force their way into your life, then it's just not worth the risk, period. Trust me. Thank you for watching. If you found these stories gripping, don't forget to subscribe for more spine-tingling content. For another hair-raising tale, check out our suggested video. And if you're hungry for more eerie encounters, dive into our playlist featuring similar chilling narratives.